Jonathan Moore again, aka Doomstash. I'm going to go over 4 different types of lenses today: the Mitikon, the Fujinon, and both of the Minoltas that are listed. Um, but I took some test shots today with my friend Mark, and just to demonstrate full body portraits and just kind of closer up portraits. I find that there's not a lot of good reviews, or I guess test images on full body portraits. So I just want to show anybody out there that's interested in doing that kind of work what these lenses look like, and if adapted Minolta lenses or any other similar 35 millimeter lenses adapted on your GFX would work. So let's just get into it. Okay, so here's Mark right here. First, we're going to start out with the Mitikon 65 millimeter 1.4. I have all of these images renamed to what I actually shot them on and the apertures that I shot them on. And all of these images, none of them are edited. They're all just the raw files, except for the exception of a couple of them, which I just bumped the exposure up and corrected the white balance a little bit. Because some of these older lenses have a different color cast, and the Minolta 1.8, the 55 1.8 had more of a cool cast on it, but let's just get into it. So first of all, this is a full body portrait of Mark. I think I got focus. Yeah, I got focus off a little bit right here. You can see on the ground, I think I got a little bit forward, but you can kind of get the idea, and as well through my other images that I've posted in the past of what the full body portrait looks like on a Mitikon. Now let's go to the second image here, which is the Mitikon at 2.8. So it's still pretty good. Lots of sharpness here. Got to wait for my hard drive to catch up. Okay, there we go. So lots of sharpness here. And then the next image is going to be from the Fujinon 63 millimeter. So this is the 663 and this is the 65. It's pretty similar in terms of background separation. And it's a little bit wider, obviously. Whoops. So there's those two. And then we're going to move on to the Minolta 55 millimeter 1.8. Now, this is a pretty good lens, in my opinion, if you're on a budget. You can pick these up for really, really cheap on eBay, and I would highly suggest this if you want to do the adapting route. Now, they're not going to be perfect because they're, designed for 35 millimeter film planes or sensors, but as you can see, pretty good sharpness, wide open at 1.8. We do have vignetting, noticeable vignetting, and let's go to 2.8 on this. And you lose some of the vignetting, but you also sacrifice some background separation, obviously, but very, very sharp at 2.8. I would highly recommend this over the 58 millimeter 1.2, which some would scoff at, but check this out. So this is the 1.2 wide open, and as you can see, I nailed focus as best as I could, and we still have a lot of ghosting here, and severe vignetting. But what about 2.8? It's still the same story. So wide open and 2.8. And to be honest, I don't like the background separation as much as the Mitikon. Let's just do a comparison here. So as you can see, the Mitikon just comes out on top in terms of handling trees like this and the bokeh on the trees and all that kind of stuff. So here, going back to the 1.2 wide open and zooming in on that, you can kind of see there's just a lot of texture happening in that separation there. Let's go to the 2.8 version. Okay, let's go to up close portraits here. So this is the Minolta at 2.8. So pretty sharp, really, really sharp actually, up close. But let's go wide open. And again, we're seeing the heavy vignettes, and just kind of a bulbous structure in the lens rendition of this particular lens, and still I don't like the way it handles backgrounds on the GFX like that. And don't get me wrong, it is a heavy hitter on it when you're actually shooting it on a Minolta camera, but on the GFX I do not like the results compared to the Mitikon. And at the end of the day, I mean, you might pay 250 bucks, 300 bucks for this particular lens on eBay and get an adapter for 50 bucks or whatever they are now. I don't know. Inflation's kind of crazy, but I would spend the extra few $100s on a Mitikon and just be done with it. It's a lens that's designed for the camera, and you don't have to worry about this heavy vignetting or cropping it out. You get the full sensor to use. And let's go on to the 55. The 55, again, it's much better. The image circle just covers that sensor way better. Wide open, we can see that Mark's face is, very much in focus and sharp. It's really nice. And while like at 2.8, it's even sharper. Obviously, background separation is pretty good. And let's go on to the Fuji GF63, which my good friend Nick hooked me up with. He sent that to me in the mail earlier this week, so I can review it for you guys. And let's go to the Mitikon images, and we can already tell that it just trumps everything else. I mean, this background is just completely blown out. He's in focus. The fall off, the aberrations are going to be obvious, especially against the sky. And I specifically chose this sky background so I could, test the flaws and strengths of these lenses. And so that's what we're looking at here. And then if we go to 2.8, we can see we get less, but it's still a beautiful rendition. There's no bulbous structure happening, throughout the image. It's very nice and flat. You can tell that it's just designed for this sensor, and it's obviously just super sharp. But let's go back to just the full body again, compared to, let's see, that 2.8 and the Fuji. So yeah, I really was interested in the 63 because it has the autofocus, and the autofocus is really nice. I also have the 45 millimeter. And I didn't want to test that one up against these other ones. It's just a little bit too wide. It's in a different arena. Even the Minoltas are a little bit wide for this test, but I just wanted to include them because I've been asked about them and adapting them. So I wanted to share that information with this test. But also it was cold and windy out, and we just didn't want to be out there because Portland is nasty. But I would say if you're going the adapted route, I would get a 55 for sure. It actually handles a lot better at 1.8 compared to 1.2 right here. Is just it's too similar, and I like the bokeh better on the 55. It just does it for me compared to that. Yeah, the 1.2 just kind of gives these little circles on the trees there. I don't really like that. But yeah, the 63 is, if you're considering it, it's a great lens, but you're not going to get the background separation as you would on the Mitikon. I feel like I should be a spokesperson for the Mitikon at this point because I've had a lot of people reach out to me about it. But I think this test right here kind of tells everything that the Mitikon is capable of. So in conclusion, I would definitely buy the Mitikon if you're looking for this type of look. If you're looking for a 4x5 or a Pentax 6.7, 105 look, which I used to shoot on primarily, I would definitely get the Mitikon. And adapting other lenses, like a Pentax 645 lens on the GFX would be great, but you can only go up to, or you can only open up to a 2.8 on those lenses, I believe, or maybe an f2, I can't remember. But I think what Mamiya has a 1.9. That would be fun to adapt. But I've also in the past had a Kaipon speed booster um, adapted to the Pentax 67 105 millimeter 2.4, and that was a really interesting setup. It actually, with the speed booster, made it 1-to-1 in terms of covering the whole image circle for that lens, and I kind of got the same look I got out of the Mitikon, except I had some flaring issues because there's just the speed booster and the old glass with the coating and everything on the 105. It didn't look as good as the Mitikon, which is kind of crazy to say, but it was just too similar as well, and so I just ended up selling both my Pentaxes and that Kaipon speed booster. I've also made a couple of Schneider lenses, Schneider cinema lenses for made for 35 millimeter cinema projectors, and I kitted them out with like focusing barrels and the adapters and all that kind of stuff. And you can only shoot wide open at f2 unless you were to get crazy and put an iris in there somehow. And I thought about doing that and this and that, but at the end of the day, I don't want to be a gear nerd, but this whole video is about gear. But I just love sharing information with other people, and I've even tried a Helios. I have that back there, but I'm not going to even like put that on. It was just a joke. The center, obviously we all know the center of a Helios lens is the only sharp thing on it, but it also doesn't cover the image circle quite that well either. There's harsh vignetting, but yeah, hopefully this video was helpful, and hope everybody has a good day.